Now that we've seen the newest Hellboy movie, it is time to go back and rank all 3 of the Hellboy movies, and spoilers ahead. I am going to go ahead and spoil the new one, so letting you know that right up front. Let's rank these movies worst to best. Welcome to Durbania. I'm Durbin, and this is my ranking of the 3 Hellboy movies worst to best. 2 Hellboy movies that go together, 1 reboot. I'm excited to dive into this ranking and rank them worst to best, and I'm excited for you to dive into it in the comments and let me know how you would rank these movies worst to best. So let's go ahead and do that below in the comments. Without further ado, my ranking. Number 3, Hellboy 2019. Now, kind of like what I said in my review, it's not like I hate this movie, because I don't. I just think I gave it a C. It's totally average. There's nothing about it that's really special. It's not spectacularly bad. It's not spectacularly good. It's just kind of right there in the middle. In fact, it's the type of movie that I by far would have rather watched on Netflix or something than seen it on the big screen. But that's just my personal opinion. If you liked it better, cannot wait to hear from you, your thoughts on that. I mean, overall, like, the action was really good, but I felt like the story was really rushed. I felt like I was watching a movie that was a little bit longer and had more in-depth stuff and then was edited. And one of the things I love digging into lore and all that. This movie felt like it rushed through some of the stuff that I really wanted. Like the great big reveal that Hellboy is a descendant of King Arthur, and then they go and they wake up Merlin and he has this destiny of taking Excalibur. All of that I thought was so cool, but I thought it was so rushed. It was like, it was sort of there just to get Hellboy to the end of making the choice of whether he will be the creature to bring about the apocalypse or not, which it was an interesting way to dive into that and get him to that point. And it's not like Merlin, I guess, needed to have, you know, great pages of dialogue and much longer time on screen, but it just really felt like they introduced something cool with Merlin, and then they kind of went right through it. I thought some of the ending stuff was cool, though, where he picks up Excalibur and it lights on fire, and he comes out, horns, and fiery crown. Like, that stuff was really cool. I don't know what you do different, because, you know, you go back to Hellboy 2004 and he rips off the horns when he decides he's not going to be the creature that brings about the apocalypse. And so, I mean, it's the same kind of thing in this. He decides he's not going to be the creature, pulls off the horn. So it felt like a repeat, but then again, if you're rebooting an origin story, where else do you go? It's an origin story. So we got to see him make that choice to not be that being that brings about the apocalypse. Which does bring me to another positive. I liked Ian McShane as Professor Broom. I thought he was pretty cool. And a friend of mine posted on my Facebook page a cool little dynamic, and I was like, yeah, that's really kind of smart. That Ian McShane as Professor Broom was the father of Hellboy. Now, everybody around Hellboy saw him as a demon and a devil and the bringer of the apocalypse. And they reached a point where Hellboy himself kind of saw himself as a demon and a devil and a bringer of the apocalypse. But Professor Broom, his father, looked on him as a son and loved him as a son and saw past the exterior and saw past that, you know, demon thing, and looked in and saw somebody who can make a good decision, who was a good man, who could make a good life. And, you know, while Hellboy was having a hard time seeing that, his father was there to remind him of that. Kind of like our Heavenly Father looking at mankind, where we can see ourselves as monsters and dirt, yet our Father sees past that and sees the potential of what we could be and doesn't even call us dirt. So I thought that was a cool little dynamic, and I enjoyed that. David Harbour was a good Hellboy. I did enjoy his interpretation of the character. It felt like it was gore for gore's sake. You know, it's like, oh, we just got to make it rated R to make it more distinctive from the original, so some of it felt kind of forced. But, you know, overall, it's not the worst movie I've seen. I'd rather do a straight to Netflix, and I do wish they went a little bit slower on really cool things, like the fact that Hellboy is a descendant of King Arthur and the whole sword and the stone thing. Like, I thought that was kind of cool, but it also felt like, well, let's just rush to it and get to the end so we can watch some more gory stuff. So that's what I felt about it, but overall, it's not a bad movie. Number 2, Hellboy 2004. This one comes in at my number 2 just because I liked it a little bit better. Overall, it's a little bit more, you know, hokey a little. I wouldn't say hokey, but it has more of that hokey feeling. It has more of that comedic feeling. It's like it knows what it is and embraces what it is. It's just a really fun comic book superhero monster movie, and it embraces that, and it has a lot of fun with that. I like Ron. Are you gonna be okay? I like Ron Perlman's Hellboy. I think he's a really great Hellboy. I love his reactions to things, and so I just really enjoyed him in that role. I like Professor Broom. He just felt a bit more fatherly to me in this original franchise than in the newer one. Not that there's anything wrong with Ian McShane's performance, but I liked the fatherly feeling that I got probably just from the actor John Hurt. And, you know, seeing this guy, a good, solid Catholic man, raising up Hellboy, you know, to be a man of faith himself and to choose the good over the evil. So there's a lot of really cool and interesting aspects to this one. So I really did enjoy stuff like that. And I felt like as it was building towards the epic finale of this movie, I just felt there was more emphasis on his choice to be the instrument to bring about the apocalypse or to make a choice to be good, and the idea that it was his father who gave him that choice. I mean, if Rasputin had raised him, he definitely would have become this weapon, this instrument of bringing about the apocalypse, you know? If anybody else had got their hands on him, he either would have been killed, destroyed, or whatever, but there's just a bit more emphasis on the fact that Broom took him in and gave him that choice. Plus, I love scenes like where Rasputin is like,
"Your God is silent. Ooh, he didn't tell you Hellboy's real identity."
And then I'm like, well, yeah, God is silent, not because God is ignoring Broom and his questions, but because God gave Hellboy a choice. And so I just found all of that really interesting, and those really cool parallels that I could find in that movie. So I had a bit more fun watching this movie and digging deeper into this movie. Some of the things I did not like, Liz just is not one of my favorite characters. So when they bring in Agent John Mayer and, you know, try to do this Hellboy, John Mayer, Liz love triangle, I could have cared less. The only thing I even liked about that love triangle is the hilarity of Ron Perlman's Hellboy and how he reacted to that. That was like the sole reason why I even liked that love triangle. Otherwise, I didn't like the John Mayer character and I didn't like the Liz character. So I really didn't care, but I love Abe Sapien. I love Hellboy. I loved his reactions with some of those characters, the way he interacted with them. So a lot of that stuff I really did like. Number 1, Hellboy 2, The Golden Army. This one is at my number 1 because, like I said earlier, talking about Hellboy 2019, I love it when we can dig into lore and backstory and all that stuff. And this was a much deeper look into the monster world. A much deeper look into, like, the troll underground and the troll market and stuff. Like, all of that I thought was really, really cool to dig into that and learn a bit more about the world and the lore and the separation between man and monsters and how the elves took over the woodland forest and the humans took over the cities. What happens with the fact that humans are causing deforestation? I mean, shouldn't this war have happened like so much long ago? But that's probably the bitterness that is all growing up in this elf king's son over the years, and finally he can't help himself anymore and he's got to get the Golden Army activated. So, you know, the quest to get the pieces of the crown and activate the Golden Army and who's going to control the Golden Army, I thought all of that was really cool. Didn't care so much that Liz was pregnant in this one. That just, I don't know, didn't stand out to me as such a fantastic revelation or a great story element, but it did serve the story well when Hellboy gets stabbed and that thing is moving towards his heart and that weird, ugly looking creature's like, oh, it's still looming in his future. He can bring about the apocalypse and this sword will strike your heart more than the others. Ooh, so let him die now or give him a reason to live. And she chooses for him to live, which is like the greatest setup you could ever ask for a third Hellboy that never happened. I don't mind seeing where this present Hellboy goes, but let's just finish out this trilogy because that was a really cool setup. So there was a lot of really cool things about Hellboy 2, The Golden Army. More Abe Sapien. I liked the addition of Johann. Like, I thought that guy was such a fun character and it added another dynamic to the group. Giving Abe Sapien, like, more lines and more screen time and more time to interact with Hellboy and these other characters. It just, a lot of that was just so fun for me, and it was really cool to bring all that into play. So there it is. So how would you take this Hellboy, I was going to say trilogy, but it's not a trilogy. How would you take these 3 Hellboy movies and rank them worst to best? Let's do that in the comments. While you're there, hit that subscribe button to become a Durbanian. Hit the bell by the subscribe button so you're notified for my next ranking video, theological analysis, movie review, trailer reaction, or anything else I do here. I'm Durbin. Thanks for checking out Durbania.